Hi, this is Ghost and welcome back. Today we've got you a little bit more operations on Monte Grappa, and this time I am in the light tank with the flanker variant. The light tank is a French version of the weapon. I didn't actually realise it was French, and it is one of the basis of what most modern tanks are based on, with the rotating turret. It was the first one to see it in the First World War. I said first quite a lot of the times there. But anyway, this brings me on nicely to what we're going to talk about today, which was the little teaser trailer that we got for They Shall Not Pass. This DLC shall introduce the French army into the game, which seems a bit bizarre. We've already got French tank in the game, but the French tank that will be introduced into the game, from the trailer anyway, looks like it's going to be the Char 2C, which was a heavy tank designed in 1917, although it didn't actually see service until after the World War. So a few artistic liberties can probably be taken with it. And also we get to see a new, what we can assume is elite class, and the French flag, obviously indicating that it's going to be the French. The point of this map pack was to be a little bit of trench warfare, and added in on top of that was to focus on, especially with one of the maps, was to focus on the giant tank assaults that took place in the First World War. Obviously, a key thing with that was going to be this massive, heavy super tank that is going to be introduced in this map pack. Now, there's three possibilities that first off, we'll start with what this tank is. It was a 70-ton tank that was introduced. It had it was meant to be about a 12-man crew, and it was a big tank in comparison to everything else. Although that said, in comparison to what it is nowadays, it is very standard size. A normal tank is about the same size as this, which leads me to doubt the idea that it's going to be a behemoth. Now, I'd love to see it be I'd love to see a tank behemoth. It would really add a new dynamic to the game. However, this I don't feel will be the tank behemoth, purely for the fact of its size. I mean, I could be very much wrong. I could be very wrong in that, and it might be a pleasant surprise to see it, and it might be just a bit of new dynamic. So if we take on what we've got currently for the Behemoth, which is like the Zeppelin, the Destroyer, and the Train, they're huge weapons, and they change the whole dynamic of how you play each map. So something that's going to be a super heavy tank, it's got to be something that's going to be massive. And the actual sheer size of this tank wasn't that much bigger than what we've already got in the heavy tanks. The actual size of it is very similar to what you'd expect to see in Battlefield 4, like the M1 Abrams. And that wasn't really kind of behemoth size, sort of, it's incredible, massive thing that's just going to take over the whole map. So because of that, I kind of doubt that maybe it will be. Maybe they're just going to add it with a load more health and make it very difficult to destroy. But I can't see how that's going to be a behemoth. It doesn't have that sheer sort of presence on the field that it should do for a behemoth. On top of that, if we look at the actual armaments that the tank has, now admittedly the actual tank did have a machine gun as its rear-facing turret, but if you look at it closely in the little teaser trailer and compare it to what I'm currently using, it looks like the turret from the flanker. So I'd assume it's going to be like a 20mm cannon on the back. You've then got your main cannon, which will probably be like a 75mm, and then the actual tank was designed to have two other sort of semi-forward facing movable turrets that are sort of in between the tracks. This doesn't sort of scream at me, this is going to be a behemoth. We look at the weapons that some of the other behemoths have, they're sort of map changing. They'll destroy and create whole new areas of the map where you can destroy the map. And none of the weapons on that really scream as something that's going to be sort of game changing, like map changing. They're going to change the whole dynamic of the way that the game's going to be. It just seems a little bit too small. So for those two reasons, I don't believe that it's going to be a behemoth, or I can't believe it's going to be a behemoth unless they've taken some huge artistic liberties with it and made it a lot bigger than it's going to be. Anyway, the next thing, is it just going to be a new type of class of tank? So we've already got the light tank, we've got the heavy tank. Is it going to be something like a super heavy tank? So it's just another type of class that you can pick from the start. Now I've got two issues with that. Number one, if it is that, the issue I have with it is I can't see why you'd pick any of the other tank varieties. It's kind of the combination of a heavy tank and a light tank. As I said, the rear gun is more than likely going to be a 20mm cannon, meaning that it's got the light tank's gun on the back, and it's going to have the heavy tank's armour. It'll probably have some ability to repair itself inside, so it'll be a little bit better than... It'll be sort of a combination of the two tanks. Now, I can't see, if that exists, why on earth anyone would pick these other two variants. It would just mean that everyone would be driving around in these heavy, super heavy tanks. And I kind of feel that would be a little bit too strong. Like, you're going to sort of have tank battles where it's... I mean, obviously it's going to be designed around just having tank battles. But I think that would just be a bit odd. I don't agree with the idea of having something like that. I mean, it might be an interesting dynamic, but I feel the main issue with having something like that is destroying them. I mean, although it's going to be focused around having these massive tank battles in this map, which is a great idea, it brings a whole new dynamic to it. the majority of people aren't going to be in tanks. The majority of people are going to be on the ground, and to try and destroy something that's got that much armament to it, it's going to be incredibly difficult, and I don't feel that it would balance well into the game. It would need to be it either needs to be something spectacular like a Behemoth, but I think it would need something more than what the actual standard what the tank is, or it needs to be something a little bit less if it's going to be just a standard vehicle that you can spawn into at the start of the map. Now the other option, and I really would love to see something like this, because as it currently stands, there's two elite classes in the game which I don't feel are really very playable. Number one being the standard sentry class. It's very easy to be killed. Your weapon doesn't fire that fast. You do have a little bit extra health, but you're so susceptible to gas. The gas grenades just wreck you as that sentry class. And especially considering like maps like this one, for example, it would have been a great thing for having to storm the bunkers so you could get in the bunkers. Unfortunately, the gas is so prevalent in this game that you can't storm the bunkers with them because you die so quickly. It's actually faster than being shot, which I don't like in the slightest. On top of that, I just don't feel it's overly that effective. If I see a sentry class like that lying on the floor, I kind of look at it and go, I think I'd actually be better just being on the ground. My weapon fires a bit faster, I can heal, and I can move faster. And obviously I'm not that sort of focused target. If someone sees a sentry class, they tend to shoot at it because you don't want that on the field. It is more powerful. And they kind of need that more presence, which, I mean, admittedly, the Vehicle Hunter is one of my favourite classes. I think that's a great one. It's versatile and it has a good health. And to be honest, I thought initially it was going to be something that was just going to be very long ranged because of the main weapon on it. You got one hit kill across the map. But you've got the... I'm sorry, I've gone completely off topic here. I'm just talking about elite classes now, which is points for another video. But anyway, the elite class that we could be possibly seeing here. If you look at the trailer, it looks like he's got red trousers. Now this seems rather an obsolete factor, but the thing with having the red trousers was it was key with how the French tankers in the First World War wore red trousers to signify them slightly different from the standard troops. So does that imply that we're going to get an elite class of a tanker? Now you could possibly signify that he was going to be a melee guy because he's got that sort of spiked club in his hand, but I think the sheer premise of having a melee elite class just wouldn't work. You'd die too quickly. It would be so situational. It would work in a couple of areas on each map. Or maybe with a trench warfare it might do, but he looks very much like a tanker, just with extra body armor. So does that mean he's going to be an elite tanker? Now, does that mean that he's going to have some abilities like he's going to be able to revive his tanker or repair his tank a bit faster and things like that? Or do you think it would be a cooler dynamic to have an elite tanker class that you have to have this elite tanker to be able to use this Char C2? No? Char 2C. I think that would be awesome. Like, you have the Char 2C sat at this point on the map, but you can only use it once you've got the elite tanker class. I think that would be an awesome little dynamic, and it would give you sort of a real focus point to fight around these elite classes. And it would give an elite class that you'd really want to fight against, which, as I said, there's a couple of classes I don't really go, you know what, I really want to get that elite class. The other one obviously being the Flame Trooper. You're so susceptible to being killed very quickly, and bayonet charging against you is too strong. So would you like the idea, the thought of having an elite tanker class where you'd have to control this area of the map to be able to have this guy, and then from there in you'd get access to this super heavy tank and could decimate people? Anyway guys, I hope you really enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts on this possible teaser and these ideas that are coming through for this next map. Anyway guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye for now. Bye.